Secretary Collins and the VA have announced record-breaking processing times for VA disability claims. In this video, we're going to talk about what the record-breaking processing times for claims is, and we're also going to dive into what is the current status of the backlog at the Board of Veterans' Appeals. My name is Greg. I'm a VA disability attorney, and I've been representing veterans against the VA for over 10 years.
My name is Victoria Rada, and like Greg said, we are going to talk about this downward trend that Collins announced earlier in the year and whether or not it's continued. We are approaching the end of the fiscal year, and so we're going to talk about what's going on and break down the numbers for you. Earlier in the year, it was reported that VA had processed more than 2 million claims, and they were on track to surpass the prior year by about 27%. As of August 8th, they have passed it. They have surpassed it. The VA reached an all-time high of 2,524,115,000 processed rating claims. So they've already exceeded 2024, and they still have 2 months left in this fiscal year. So doing great with that goal. Let's break it down in a little bit more detail. And Greg, I'm going to have you start with the historical backlog and kind of go from there.
Yeah, so you can pull all these charts from the VA. They even release weekly data. Just Google VA backlog statistics. So this is from VA's website, and this is the claims backlog. So this is when a veteran files a claim and VA needs to make a decision that shows how many they have pending. And this chart here goes back to 2013 when things were psychotically high. I remember this period. Initial claims were sometimes taking over a year to get a decision, which is absolutely absurd. And you can see VA made really great progress and got the backlog down to below 100,000. And then you're going to see in early 2020, it started to shoot up. This is when COVID hit and VA started to grapple with that and get it down. And then you'll see in the summer of 2022, it started to shoot up again. That was because that's when the PAC Act was passed by Congress, and there was a flood of new claims related to the PAC Act, and VA started to get a handle of that. And since then, there's been a steady drop to where we are now in 2025. They're down to about 150,000 backlogged claims. And so I'll now bring up a chart showing the progress that VA's made just in 2025. So this is the past 8 months. And this is great.
This is a 37% decrease. And just for clarity, all of these charts, when they're talking about the backlog, these are specifically talking about initial claims that have been filed and have been pending for over 125 days. So that's what they're considering the backlog cases. And yeah, it's been a really dramatic decrease. Started in January at 260,000 backlog cases, and they're down to 154,000 now.
Yeah, and I've seen this in our practice. When you make a new claim now, VA's improved their intake process for documents. It used to take a couple weeks from when we filed something for it to actually get into VA's system and for them to start working it. And now that's we're seeing things in the system a day after we file it.
Do you know what they did, what change they made?
I think they just improved their intake process. Like when you upload or fax something, it goes to the evidence intake center, and they have a team there who receives the document, and then they have to associate it with the veteran's claims file. And that used to take a couple weeks, and they've just improved that process. So it's done in a day now. And it immediately starts getting worked. And so within a day of filing a claim, VA now has usually reassociated any new VA treatment records with the file, and they've logged all the issues of the veteran's claiming, and they've immediately sent out a request for a CMP examination. So that whole thing used to take sometimes a month to happen, and now it's happening within days. So that's a huge improvement.
Do you feel like the faster claim processing has impacted the accuracy or quality of the rating decisions?
Not really. So the graph up here now is VA's internal claims quality control accuracy tracking. This goes back, 12 years to 2013. And you can see it, the quality of the decisions or the accuracy took a nosedive, and it's been on a steady increase since then. So that, it's taken a nosedive and, kind of starting around PAC Act. That's probably because a lot of the VA decision makers didn't know how to make PAC Act decisions. A brand new piece of legislation.
Uh-huh.
And so there's obviously going to be a lot of issues when people are doing new things.
It's just the learning curve of
Right.
the VA at that point.
Exactly. And so, I mean, we were at an all-time low of accuracy and it's been increasing. So, yeah, so I don't know. I guess maybe historically it's worse than it's been, but not dramatically worse. The VA system is a tough thing and VA is going to continue to make mistakes. It's just the nature of the beast.
And the accuracy and mistakes, that's separate from denials. So those are two separate things. Has the faster processing times impacted the amount of denials that are being issued?
Yeah, I mean, the data indicates, yes, there's been a 3% decrease in grants this year compared to 2024. So the grant rate in 2024 was 65%, and so far in 2025, it's decreased down to 62%. So not dramatic, but there are more denials happening. And then, specifically with PAC Act cases, the grant rate last year was 75%. It's now decreased to 73%. Does that mean that VA is denying more? Yes. But is it their fault? Not. We don't know. It could be, there's an increase of PAC Act claims that just are not valid, winnable PAC Act claims, but not overall a huge change. And, we still have a couple months left in fiscal year 2025.
And when we get the final numbers, we can update this and let you know overall, maybe it all evens out or maybe it stays that the denials are 3% higher.
Right.
We'll have to wait and see. What is the current wait time? If you file an initial claim, how long it's taking VA to decide that claim as of today?
100.4 days.
There we go.
Again, you can check these stats on VA's website. So this is, up to date as of July. And yeah, I mean, you're looking at about 3 months for decision. And I've seen this improvement. We generally advise clients, over the past year that it was taking about 4 months. I think this number used to be up around 120 days.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask you. Comparatively over the last decade, would you say 100 days is good or not?
I think it's exceptional. 3 months for an organization like the VA to make a decision is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Social Security, some of their offices take over a year. And these cases are hard. VA has to get service treatment records. They have to review them. They have to order C&P examinations. I'm really happy with this number.
Do you think that they've been able to get this number down and attack the backlog as aggressively as they have because there's less claims being filed?
No. The numbers, so far for this year is that claims are up 10% compared to last year. So there's more claims and they're still getting the backlog down, which is great.
More claims, faster processing time. And ultimately, it looks like no noticeable difference in mistakes being made in the accuracy of these cases.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would suggest a veteran do if they suspect that their claim was rushed or decided incorrectly because of the pressure to reduce the backlog?
Yeah, of course. You got to appeal. If you get a denial and you have a valid claim, as always, appeal.
Let's talk about appeals a little bit then. What's going on in the world of appeals?
There's two main categories. There's appeals at the local regional office level, which are higher level reviews or supplemental claims. Mm-hmm. Those might be improving a little bit, but they're really not bad. We're saying higher level reviews are taking about 120 days, so 4 months. Maybe we're noticing a slight improvement there, and I'm sure VA is going to continue to work on that. And supplemental claims are more difficult because supplemental claims you're adding evidence. Mm-hmm. Higher level review, they're just looking at the evidence that's already in there. But when you do a supplemental claim, you add evidence. VA's got to look at it. Oftentimes, they're going to order new C&P examinations or medical opinions. Mm-hmm. So we're still estimating around 6 months if you do a supplemental claim because there's more development involved in those types of appeals. And then, the other category of appeals is if you can't get the regional office to grant it, your last resort is to appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals. And there's really good news here. So if you've watched this before, we've talked about how the backlog at the board over the past 5 years has been absolutely absurd. This is because of the transition from legacy appeals and AMA appeals. The AMA is the Appeals Modernization Act that was passed in 2019, and it created these separate lanes at the board where you could do a direct review where you don't add evidence, you could do the evidence lane where you do add evidence, or you could do the hearing lane where you can have a hearing and add evidence. Mm-hmm. And the board was trying to clear out all the legacy appeals before they started working on AMA appeals. And so this first graph here shows the percentage of decisions that they were issuing. So the green line here are legacy appeals. The blue line is AMA appeals. So if you look back when the AMA first passed in 2019, 1% of the decisions the board was issuing were AMA. Everything was legacy. And it stayed like that. They got up to like the 20% area. And then you'll see in 2023 is when the trend really started to shift. VA or the board was deciding, getting rid of the backlog of legacy appeals and starting to work on the AMA appeals. And that trend has just gone up until last year. They started issuing more AMA appeals than legacy appeals. And this graph is up to date to about a year ago, where they've almost cleared out the entire backlog of legacy, and so now they're solely focused on AMA appeals. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for the backlog? In this chart here, you can see this trend. And so when VA passed the AMA or Congress passed the AMA, the goal was that if a veteran did the direct review lane with the board, meaning they don't add any evidence, they've already submitted all their evidence to the regional office, that the board would issue a decision within 1 year. Initially, on the left side of this graph, you can see this green line. That's the direct review lane. They were doing that when the AMA first passed, 228 days, 257 days, and then it just started skyrocketing. But the good news is they're now clearing out that backlog of direct review decisions, and at this time, we are getting direct review decisions from the board in a year or less, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it says they were only up to a 577 day delay.
Yeah.
It was 3 years.
I was looking at these numbers thinking, these don't seem 100% accurate.
Yeah. The reason they're not is because they include their expedited appeals in this.
Uh-huh.
And so if a veteran's terminally ill, if they're over the age of 75 or they have a severe financial hardship, they'll get decisions within 90 days.
Right.
And so all those expedited decisions that happen within 90 days brings down this average.
Yeah.
We're experiencing about 3 years to get a decision in the direct review lane. That is currently down to a year or less, which is
that's amazing.
Awesome. So the other two lines, the yellow is the evidence, the hearing, or the red line is the hearing lane. We're starting to see evidence lane decisions come out. Previously, they were taking about 3 to 4 years. I just got a board decision in the evidence lane the other day, 2 years and 2 months, which is still a really long time, but much better than 3 to 4 years. And hopefully that number will continue to come down. Hearing is still tough. We rarely do hearings because of how long they take. Really, the board just wants the evidence it needs to grant it. And so the goal here, at least within our firm, is get all the evidence submitted to the regional office. If they continue to deny it, just do a direct review appeal to the board so that you get a decision as quickly as possible from the board. This is just another way of showing their timeliness average. And so this doesn't break down the different appeal lanes, but the green is legacy appeals. Those continue to go up because these appeals were filed years ago. And so they just continue to pend at the board. Even when the board remands it, if it gets denied again at the regional office, it keeps its original docket date. So this number is going to continue to get higher until they clear out all the legacy appeals. Most people aren't in legacy, so I wouldn't be concerned with that.
But this is almost cleared out, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the actual number is, but it just continues to go down.
Okay.
But the processing time for them is going to continue to go up because the ones that remain are appeals that have been filed 8 years ago and have bounced back and forth between the regional office and the board. And then the blue lines are the AMA appeals. And so you can see the improvement in processing time. Last year was 2.8 years. Now it's down to 2.2. Hopefully that improves. And this, I think this is a direct result of the hiring that the board did back in 2022, 2023. They hired a lot more judges and a lot more clerks.
All right. So what I wanted to ask you about, it's not 100% related to these numbers, but you talked briefly just now about that there's a way to expedite your case when you're at the board. And we did a video a while back talking about how they've gotten really strict with how they interpret these things. And I mean, bankruptcy specifically was a severe financial hardship, and then they removed that. Have you seen any leniency in that regard back in, or are they still being, really extreme about how how they interpret who should be expedited and not?
Yeah, well, there was a court case earlier this year where a veteran tried to appeal the board's denial of their motion to advance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a little smackdown from the court on the board. Basically, the board, when you file a motion to advance, they would essentially just issue like a two-sentence denial. And the court said that the board has to give like detailed reasons for why the hardship doesn't meet the criteria to be advanced on the docket. And so the board now really is, I say not allowed to. They can still do whatever they want, but they're not supposed to just issue a generic denial. They have to say specifically why your claimed hardship, whether it's financial or a severe health hardship, doesn't meet their criteria. So I do think it is a little bit harder for them to deny those. Definitely keep trying and go into detail what your health issue is. That specific case that I was just referencing, the vet had severe PTSD and chronic suicidal ideation. He was arguing that he should be expedited because of that. So make your case. I mean, the worst they can do is say no. And yeah, I think this court case has helped potentially make it so the board is more willing to grant advancement on the docket.
All right. That's everything I think we were planning on addressing. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
Nope. I'm just happy that processing times have decreased both at the initial claim level and at the appeal level. It's a win for veterans, and I hope it continues to further decrease.
Yep, I agree. It's always nice, too, to be able to come on and share good news. It just feels good to know that these things are happening quicker, and these are decisions that people want to happen quicker. So,
yeah, thanks for joining us. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate everyone's support.
Thank you.